These are the most horrific places on the web in the form of an iceberg. Some of these sites were scams, some were illegal, and some were so disturbing they should have never existed. At first, things might seem strange but relatively harmless, just another unsettling corner of the web. But as we keep going, the reality gets worse. By the time we reach the bottom, we'll be looking at the internet's most horrifying websites, the kind of places that leave a mark on anyone who dares to look. But first, let's begin at the surface. Level 1. Plane Crash Info. Most people have no real reason to fear flying, but spend a little time on Plane Crash Info, and you might never look at air travel the same way again. The website is exactly what it sounds like, a massive database dedicated to aviation disasters. It has everything: official reports, transcripts of final words, and the worst part, actual cockpit voice recordings. Reading the transcripts is chilling, as routine communication slowly unravels into panic and silence. But the real nightmare is in the recordings. The alarms blaring, the panicked voices, the screams of passengers as they realize what's happening. Sometimes the recordings cut off mid-sentence. Sometimes you hear the moment of impact. Some people visit the site once out of curiosity. Others get stuck there, scrolling for hours, listening to flight after flight go wrong. It's not just numbers and statistics. It's real people, real voices, real endings. And once you hear them, they stay with you. Skyway Bridge. In Florida, the Skyway Bridge stands tall, offering incredible views, but it's also known for something much darker. A place where many people have tragically taken their own lives. Over the years, a website called the Skyway Bridge Suicide Jumper Report appeared that was dedicated to showcasing these sad and horrifying events. The website posted videos and images of people who had jumped off the bridge, showing their last moments or the aftermath of their fall. For many, just hearing about this was enough to feel unsettled, but seeing it up close was something entirely different.
How it is.
Alright, I want to show what akathisia is. This is it. I can't stop moving, and I can't.
The content was raw, graphic, and sometimes too much to handle. It felt almost like the website was encouraging people to watch, making it all the more disturbing. Many people were disgusted by the site, calling it out for exploiting grief and death. Eventually, authorities took it down, but not before it had left a mark on the internet. The fifth knell. The internet is full of personal blogs, but few are as chilling as the fifth knell. This was the personal website of Joseph Edward Duncan III, a convicted serial killer and sex offender. Long before he was caught, Duncan used the site like a diary. He wrote about his views on society, his personal struggles, and cryptic reflections on the urges he claimed to suppress. Some posts read like the ramblings of a troubled man. Others, in hindsight, felt like glimpses into something much darker, like warnings disguised as personal musings. For years, the blog sat unnoticed. But in 2005, Duncan was arrested for the brutal murders of a family in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and the abduction of 8-year-old Sasta Groin and her 9-year-old brother Dylan. He held them captive for weeks, subjecting them to horrifying things before killing Dylan. Shasta was later rescued after a waitress at a Denny's restaurant recognized her and called the police. When the public discovered the fifth nail, Duncan's words took on an entirely new meaning. They weren't just unsettling thoughts from an anonymous blogger. They were the recorded mindset of a predator. His posts were filled with eerie reflections on his own violent fantasies, now seen as confessions hidden in plain sight. Even behind bars, Duncan's words didn't stop. Another website, The Fifth Nail Exposed, was created by someone else to archive and analyze his original blog. Later, even from death row, he managed to get his letters published online by a third party under the pseudonym Silenced. Level 2. Silk Road. In 2011, a revolutionary website named Silk Road emerged on the dark web, forever changing how people would conduct illegal business online. Created by a man named Ross Ulbricht, who went by the online alias Dread Pirate Roberts, the site offered a marketplace where people could buy and sell illegal goods, including drugs, counterfeit documents, and stolen data. What made Silk Road unique was his use of Bitcoin, an emerging digital currency at the time, which provided a way for transactions to remain anonymous. Bitcoin allowed users to make purchases and payments without revealing their identities or locations, making Silk Road a haven for those looking to avoid the law. At first, Silk Road seemed harmless. The site had a minimalist design, with simple categories for users to browse goods, from marijuana to fake passports. Sellers would post listings with product descriptions, and buyers would transfer Bitcoin into an escrow account. The system was designed to ensure that sellers didn't scam buyers, and it created a certain level of trust between the two parties. Over time, this model caught on, and Silk Road grew rapidly, eventually hosting thousands of illegal transactions. As Silk Road gained traction, it became a massive problem for law enforcement. Despite the anonymity it provided, the FBI and other authorities had been investigating the site for months. On October 1st, 2013, they finally acted. Through a careful operation, they traced Ross Ulbricht's digital footprint and were able to catch him in a San Francisco library. He was arrested and charged with a variety of crimes, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and computer hacking. When authorities seized Silk Road, they found the site's back-end infrastructure, which contained a treasure trove of evidence, including logs of transactions, encrypted messages, and other crucial information that linked users to illicit activities. They had finally cracked the dark web's biggest illegal marketplace. Ulbricht was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole.
Operating a sophisticated illegal drug website. The site operated much like eBay. It allowed users to buy and sell illegal drugs, guns, and even hire hitmen. The FBI spent 2 years trying to find the man behind the site. And as Mike Drolet reports, there's a Canadian connection to how they finally got him.
Alphabay. After Silk Road was shut down in 2013, a new marketplace quickly emerged to fill the void. Launched in December 2014, Alphabay was designed to be more secure, professional, and organized than its predecessor. It rapidly became the largest dark web marketplace, offering everything from drugs, hacking tools, stolen credit card information, counterfeit documents, to illegal weapons. What made Alphabay particularly dangerous was its enhanced security features. The site used end-to-end encryption, multi-factor authentication, and operated exclusively on the Tor network, ensuring that users remained anonymous. Unlike Silk Road, Alphabay functioned more like a mainstream e-commerce site, with vendors creating detailed listings and buyers leaving reviews and ratings. The site even had customer support and forums where users exchanged advice on fraud, hacking, and money laundering. By 2017, it grew into a global criminal marketplace, reportedly hosting over 400,000 users and facilitating transactions worth hundreds of millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. This made it a prime target for law enforcement. In July 2017, after a joint operation by the FBI, DEA, Europol, and Thai authorities, Alexander Kazis, the founder and administrator of Alphabay, was arrested in Bangkok, Thailand. Just days later, on July 12, 2017, he was found dead in his prison cell. Thai authorities ruled his death a suicide, claiming he hanged himself using a towel. However, speculation arose that he may have been murdered to protect the identities of Alphabay's users, many of whom were high-profile cybercriminals and fraudsters. Following Alphabay's seizure and shutdown, many users migrated to other dark web marketplaces, such as Dream Market and Wall Street Market. In 2021, an individual claiming to be a former Alphabay moderator attempted to revive the site, but it wasn't like the original. Joker Stash. The Joker Stash wasn't a place for those looking for a quick fix or a good deal. It was a haven for cybercriminals. This dark web marketplace was a paradise for anyone looking to steal someone's identity or drain their bank accounts. Credit card information, bank account numbers, and personal identities were sold like any other commodity. The buyers were often hackers, identity thieves, or anyone looking to exploit others for profit. The sellers, on the other hand, were skilled in breaching databases, siphoning off valuable personal information to resell it on the site. For years, the Joker stash was at the center of a sprawling underground network of cybercrime, making it one of the most notorious marketplaces for stolen data. Though authorities were always trying to track down the criminals behind it, the Joker stash had a knack for staying one step ahead, constantly moving locations to avoid detection. But eventually, law enforcement caught up with the dark web marketplace. The site was seized, and many of the criminals who frequented it were arrested. Supernaut. Unlike traditional memorabilia shops, Supernaut deals in items once owned, created, or written by some of the most notorious criminals the world has ever known. For over 2 decades, the site has offered a vast collection of personal letters, artwork, autographs, and even personal effects from convicted killers. This website gained attention for selling handwritten notes from serial killers like Ted Bundy, Richard Ramirez, John Wayne Gacy, and Charles Manson. Some letters containing chilling confessions, twisted reflections, or mundane conversations with collectors. The artwork, often unsettling, provides a rare look into the minds of those who committed unspeakable acts. Among the most controversial pieces sold are Gacy's clown paintings and Ramirez's eerie drawings. Beyond letters and artwork, Supernaut also offers signed photographs, court documents, and even items like prison ID cards and clothing once worn behind bars. The murderabilia trade has been met with outrage from victims' families, law enforcement, and advocacy groups who argue that profiting off crime glorifies violent offenders and disrespects those they harmed. Some states attempted to limit the sale of such items with Son of Sam laws, which prevent criminals from making money from their crimes. But these laws often fail to stop third-party sellers from continuing to profit, allowing sites like Supernaut to remain active. Despite the controversy, Supernaut is still one of the largest and most well-known murderabilia websites, and collectors from around the world continue to seek its ever-changing inventory, eager to own a piece of history, no matter how disturbing it may be. Level 3. Hood Site. Some people watch horror movies to get scared, but then there are people who go to sites like Hood Site to get their adrenaline pumping in real life. Before being shut down, Hood Site was a notorious hub for unfiltered, real-time violence. The site was disguised as a news outlet, but the content it featured was far from traditional news. These were unfiltered, often brutal, real-time videos of violence that no one expected to see. Some were filmed by witnesses, others came from police body cameras, or even criminals themselves, showing the moments before and after deadly encounters. For a while, the site had easy access, drawing millions of viewers who wanted to see violence at its most unrestrained. But as its content grew more extreme and violent, it came under heavy scrutiny. In 2021, Hood Site was taken down, leaving a trail of disturbing footage still floating around the internet.
What's going on? Put the knife down now! Put the knife down now! Put the knife down now! 1806, step up. Man wants a knife. Put the knife down! Back up! Back up! Back up! Back up! Man, back up! Man! Man, back up, man! Man, back up! Put the knife down!
Documenting reality. Some websites promise to show you the truth. Documenting reality did exactly that, but not the way you expect. The website showed bloody crime scenes to disturbing accidents and brutal executions. If it was shocking, it was posted here. The images didn't hold back. They were meant to shock for shock's sake. They were raw. The site wasn't also just about the visuals. It was about the community it built around them. People discussed, analyzed, and shared. Some users had dark curiosity. Others seemed to enjoy the content in a way that made you question the limits of human nature. While the site eventually shut down, its archives live on in hidden corners of the internet. Screenshots, old discussions, and disturbing video clips are still floating around, haunting those who chanced upon them. Some regret visiting, while others can't shake the feeling they've missed something by not seeing more. Gorgrish. There are corners of the internet you stumble upon by accident and immediately regret. Gorgorish is one of them. At first glance, it looks like another archive of crime scene photos and historical gore, but the longer you stay, the worse it gets. Unlike most shock sites that exist to just disturb, this one presents everything in a cold, clinical way, like a morgue filing system. There are sections dedicated to executions, war crimes, accident fatalities, and medical anomalies. Every image is categorized. Every video is stored like it belongs in some kind of twisted digital museum. Then there are the forums. People gather to casually discuss the details of real deaths, analyzing footage like it's some kind of science project. Some users admit they came out of curiosity. Others say they stayed too long. They started watching things they never thought they would, clicking on videos they once swore they'd never glance at again. Once you see certain images, they don't leave your head. And once you've been on Gorgorish, you don't forget what you saw. Rotten.com. If you were online in the late 90s and early 2000s, you've probably heard of Rotten.com. It was anything but pretty. From the beginning, Rotten.com was known for showcasing the absolute worst of the internet: crime scenes, autopsies, medical disasters, freak accidents. If it was disturbing, it was there. There was no filter or warning, just a raw display of death and destruction. For years, it was the site everyone whispered about. Teachers warned their students, parents banned it from computers. But the more people were told to avoid it, the more curious they became. What was behind that forbidden link? Eventually, Rotten.com disappeared, but the truth remains that it was one of the first shock sites that paved the way for everything that came after, and a brutal reminder that some people are drawn to the darkness, no matter how twisted it is. Level 4. Cannibal Cafe. Cannibal Cafe was an internet forum that attracted people who fantasized about cannibalism. The site became known for its disturbing content where users openly discussed their desires. Some members even made plans to act on these dark fantasies in real life. One of the most infamous stories connected to Cannibal Cafe was the case of Armin Meiwes. He met a man named Bernd Jürgen Brandes on the website, and the two agreed to fulfill Meiwes' desire to kill and eat someone. Meiwes filmed the gruesome act of killing and eating Brandes in 2001. The case shocked the world when it was discovered, and Meiwes was arrested and eventually convicted of murder. After the crime came to light, authorities began investigating the website and its members, and even though there were other members of the site who discussed similar desires, no other public cases were reported. Joy of Satan. Joy of Satan was a website that promoted some of the most extreme ideas about Satanism and the occult, mixing conspiracy theories with dark beliefs and questioning everything most people believed in. The site was full of content that could shock anyone who stumbled upon it. It wasn't just a place for people to discuss religion, but for them to embrace some of the most radical ideas out there. The site had articles about satanic rituals, bizarre teachings, and anti-Christian views. There were also strange conspiracies about world domination and satanic elites controlling the world. For many who found the site, it was a space to explore new and extreme ideologies. But for others, it was a place that felt dangerous and toxic. The site's tone was aggressive and confrontational, and it invited people to see the world in a way that many felt was unhealthy or even harmful. Despite the criticism, Joy of Satan built a following of people who were drawn into its dark teachings. Angel's Heaven. If you venture into the darkest parts of the internet, you'll come across some truly disturbing sites, and Angel's Heaven was one of the most horrifying. It was tied to something called hurtcore content that involves abuse and exploitation, and sometimes even real harm. For a long time, hardly anyone knew it existed. It was buried deep, protected by hidden networks and secret codes. Only a select few knew how to access it. The people running it weren't reckless, they were careful. They covered the tracks, moved servers, and used encrypted messages to stay invisible. But no secret lasts forever. When investigators started digging into dark web crime rings, they began seeing patterns. The way Angel's Heaven worked was too familiar, too well organized to be random. It seemed to be connected to other illegal sites run by people already on law enforcement's radar. Among them were Benjamin Faulkner and Patrick Fault, two men arrested for running similar operations. Police forces from around the world worked together, chasing the people behind the site through fake identities, hidden servers, and encrypted messages. And then, one day, it was gone without a warning. Level 5. Pink Meth. Pink Meth was a website designed for humiliation. Users uploaded intimate photos of their exes, their enemies, even people they had never met, just to ruin lives. Alongside the pictures, they often posted social media accounts, home addresses, and phone numbers, making it easy for others to harass and blackmail victims. At first, it operated in plain sight, disguising itself as a free speech platform, claiming that it was simply a place for people to share. But the truth was much darker. It was a site built on cruelty, where people were encouraged to destroy others for fun or revenge. For a while, Pink Meth seemed untouchable. Victims begged for their photos to be removed, but the site's creators mocked them instead. Some tried legal action, only to be ignored. Eventually, as more people spoke out, the pressure became too great. The site was forced into hiding, shifting to the dark web where it continued its rampage. Docspin. Docspin wasn't like other forms of the dark web. It didn't deal in drugs, stolen data, or illegal goods. Instead, it offered something just as dangerous: personal information. Home addresses, phone numbers, emails, and work details. If someone wanted to ruin a person's life, this was the place to do it. Docspin first appeared in the early 2010s, quietly growing in the shadows. It was a simple platform, but its purpose was clear. Users could upload, share, and search for doxing information on anyone. No one was safe. Private citizens, celebrities, law enforcement officers, and rival hackers were all fair game. Some used it for harassment, others for intimidation, and some just wanted to watch the chaos unfold. By 2014, the site had caught the attention of law enforcement. It was targeted during Operation Animus, a coordinated crackdown on illegal darknet sites. The original operator, known as Nakash, was forced to shut it down. But that didn't mean the end. Ownership was transferred and the community continued to thrive in other hidden corners of the web. Years passed and Docspin kept resurfacing. In late 2021, it changed hands again. This time it fell into the control of a notorious cybercriminal named Andrew Baphomet Tate. His time as owner didn't last. Facing backlash from the site's users, he decided to return it to its previous administrators. Before leaving though, he leaked the entire database. Every name, every address, every record that had ever been posted. And just like that, the very thing users had relied on to expose others had turned against them. Playpen. The site's creator, Stephen W. Chase, launched Playpen in August 2014. He built it to be a massive forum where users from all around the world could exchange illegal material. The site had tens of thousands of members, all gathered in one of the darkest places on the internet. Images and videos were shared freely, and discussions took place without fear of exposure. Chase and his administrators ran the site with strict rules, ensuring its users remained hidden from law enforcement. For years, it thrived in the shadows, protected by the anonymity of the Tor network. But in February 2015, everything changed. Chase made a mistake. While logging into Playpen from his home in Florida, he accidentally revealed his real IP address. Investigators tracked the signal, and soon, Chase was in handcuffs. The FBI had finally found the person behind the largest child exploitation network on the dark web. Instead of shutting the site down, the FBI made a bold and controversial decision. They took control of Playpen and kept it running for 2 weeks. Their goal was not to maintain the site's illegal activity, but to infiltrate its user base. The agency deployed a hacking tool called a network investigative technique. What this program did was to quietly bypass the encryption of the Tor network and extract IP addresses of Playpen users. During those 2 weeks, law enforcement collected information on hundreds of suspects. Investigators worked across multiple countries, coordinating efforts to track down individuals who had used the site to distribute or consume child exploitation material. By the time Playpen was finally taken offline, The FBI had what they needed to bring its users to justice. The operation led to the arrest of over 900 people worldwide. Hundreds of children were rescued from abusive situations. Stephen W. Chase was sentenced to 30 years in prison, while his top administrators received lengthy sentences as well. The case became one of the largest takedowns of an online exploitation network in history. But the FBI's methods sparked intense debate.
No, I believe it's a chat room. There's I don't want to name any sites in specific, but where you randomly get matched with somebody on a camera. So two individuals with web cameras are randomly connected with each other.
Most people questioned whether running the site for 2 weeks meant law enforcement had facilitated illegal activity, while others argued that the operation was necessary to catch criminals who had remained hidden for so long. Death Addict. Death Addict was a shocking website that became infamous in the mid-2000s, known for its disturbing content. It was part of a broader trend of shock sites, which attracted visitors by offering violent, explicit, and sometimes gruesome images and videos shared with little regard for the victims involved. The site operated in a similar fashion to other controversial shock sites like Best Gore and Gorgrish, allowing users to share and view images of death, violence, and suffering. Content ranged from accidents and crime scene photos to more extreme depictions of injury or fatality. Death Addict allowed this content to be freely discussed and shared within its online community, where members could explore, dissect, and discuss these disturbing images in detail. This attracted a specific audience of those with a curiosity for the gruesome. For many, visiting such sites was a way to satisfy a desire to confront their fears or explore the darker side of human existence. For others, it became a form of entertainment or a way to feel detached from the horrors of the real world. However, as the site's popularity grew, so did concerns about the ethics of hosting and sharing such content. One of the biggest ethical issues surrounding Death Addict was the lack of consideration for the victims in the images and videos. Many of the photos shared on the site were taken, often without the permission of those involved or their families. This exploitation of human suffering for shock value became a significant point of contention. It raised questions about the responsibility of internet platforms in regulating harmful or illegal content, especially when it involves real-life victims who never consented to having their most tragic moments shared publicly. The psychological impact on viewers was another major concern. Studies have shown that exposure to violent and graphic content can desensitize people over time, leading to a reduced emotional response to violence. There were worries about how such websites could alter the way individuals view violence and suffering, potentially normalizing these behaviors. Level 6. Best Gore. This wasn't just another shocking site. It was a raw, unfiltered collection of real-life horror. From brutal crimes to gruesome accidents to war footage and cartel executions, nothing was off limits. Unlike horror movies, everything here was real, and that's what made it so terrifying. Founded in 2008 by Mark Merrick, Best Gore claimed to be a platform for reality news, arguing that people had the right to see the uncensored truth of violence and death. But it quickly became a breeding ground for some of the most disturbing content on the internet. A lot of people visited out of curiosity, others out of morbid fascination, and some just wanted the most extreme content they could find. The site reached worldwide popularity in 2012 when it hosted the video of Luca Magnotta, a Canadian killer who filmed himself murdering and dismembering his victim, John Lynn. The video, One Lunatic, One Iceberg, sent shockwaves across the internet. Authorities quickly linked its circulation to Best Gore, leading to legal trouble for Merrick, who was charged with corrupting morals under Canadian law. Despite the controversy, the site continued to thrive for years, drawing millions of visitors who wanted to see the kind of footage mainstream media wouldn't dare to show. It wasn't until 2020, after growing legal pressure and backlash, that Best Gore finally shut down. Necrobabes. Launched in the late 1990s, Necrobabes catered to a bizarre and controversial fetish: fake snuff films. The site featured staged videos where women acted out violent death scenes, including strangulation, drowning, and other gruesome scenarios. Everything was scripted, and the models were unharmed, but the videos were disturbingly realistic. At first, Necrobabes operated in the shadows, known only to a niche audience. But as the internet grew, so did it. People debated whether a site like this should even be allowed. It wasn't illegal since no one was actually hurt, but many believed it was dangerous. Could watching fake murder make some people crave the real thing? In spite of the backlash, the website had a dedicated following. Subscribers paid to watch the latest twisted scenes, and it continued for years, surviving on the fringes of the internet. But as time went on, it became harder to stay online. Payment processors cut ties with extreme adult sites, and increasing pressure from authorities and advocacy groups made things even worse. By the late 2010s, Necrobabes quietly disappeared. Some say it was forced to shut down, while others believe the curators simply walked away. Copies of its videos still exist in certain corners of the internet, but the site itself is gone. Cruel Onion Wiki. Cruel Onion Wiki was a sick and disturbing website on the dark web that showed extreme animal cruelty. The site was mainly known for crush videos, where women would step on small animals like kittens, puppies, rabbits, and mice, crushing them to death while being filmed. These videos were shared among a twisted online community that enjoyed watching this kind of suffering. No one knows exactly who started Cruel Onion Wiki, but it existed in hidden parts of the internet for a while. People believe the women in the videos were either forced to or did it willingly for money or pleasure. The content was so brutal that even dark web users were shocked by how cruel it was. Eventually, animal rights groups and police started looking into the website. As more people learned about it, the pressure to disband it grew. It was removed multiple times, but like many dark websites, it kept coming back under different names.
Sexual conduct as such. And there is I think, cert granted, the court case will be heard this term. Interesting to speculate why. I think there's a video case before the court this term dealing with the First Amendment aspects of that.
Level 7. No Limits Fun. Often placed at the lowest levels of dark web iceberg charts, No Limits Fun represents the worst of what the internet has to offer, allegedly tied to extreme and illegal content involving torture, abuse, and even death. Discussions about No Limits Fun surfaced in online forums like 4chan, Reddit, and deep web directories, with claims that it hosted depraved content far beyond other dark websites. Some accounts suggested it was part of a secretive network where users could pay for unspeakable acts. A persistent rumor links No Limits Fun to Red Rooms, which are live-streamed torture sessions where viewers supposedly paid to control victims in real time. However, no concrete evidence has ever confirmed their existence, leading some to believe the site was either exaggerated or a scam designed to exploit those seeking extreme content. Similar sites have been closed by law enforcement agencies through large-scale operations like Operation Torpedo and Operation Pacifier, targeting dark web networks involved in human trafficking and torture. Arrests have also been made, but there is still no official confirmation that No Limits Fun ever operated.
After 4 years,
At what point do you actually feel sorry for what you've done?
a global manhunt
Where was it going to end? Like, what was the next level for you?
finally
As a parent, how can you reconcile what you've done to children?
got him.
You have the right to remain silent.
Believe can be so evil and so debauched and can cause so much damage and pain. What we're interested in is whether you have any remorse, whether you admit to what
Daisy's destruction. Peter Scully was an Australian criminal who became one of the most infamous figures in the world of dark web exploitation. His crimes were so extreme that they shocked even seasoned officers. He operated a child abuse network from the Philippines, where he created and sold videos depicting horrific crimes. One of the most notorious of these was Daisy's Destruction, a video series so disturbing that it became a focal point in international investigations into dark web exploitation. Scully moved to the Philippines in the early 2010s, escaping fraud charges in Australia. Once there, he established a network where he lured impoverished children, promising them food or shelter, only to exploit them in the worst ways imaginable. He filmed and sold footages to dark web users willing to pay high prices for extreme content. Authorities across multiple countries, including the Philippines National Bureau of Investigation, Interpol, and the FBI, worked together to track Scully down. His use of encryption and dark web anonymity made him difficult to locate, but investigators managed to trace his activities through financial transactions and digital evidence left behind by dark web users. In 2015, Scully was finally arrested in the Philippines. After a lengthy legal process, he was sentenced to life in prison in 2018 for his crimes. Philippine authorities and locals are seeking the death penalty for him in connection with additional cases. law enforcement agencies continue to track down those who distributed or purchased Scully's content, and efforts to dismantle similar networks remain ongoing.
But I got to go home, and he didn't. And so I'm not sure how long that smugness lasted. What is the case against Peter Scully?
There's two cases in the Philippines. The first case is the slavery, the fact that he's kept two young girls in a house and sexually abused them, tied them in dog chains, and allegedly made videos of them. That's one case. The second case involves the holding of young victims and sexually abusing them, and then it went to violence.
The Love Zone. Shannon McCool was the kind of person parents trusted. He worked in childcare, with the privilege of someone who was supposed to protect children. But behind this carefully crafted image, he was running something far more horrifying. Deep in the hidden corners of the internet, McCool controlled a secret online forum known as the Love Zone. It was a dark web network where thousands of predators gathered to share explicit content and exchange methods on how to groom and exploit children without getting caught. The forum was designed to keep outsiders away. Anyone who wanted access had to prove they belonged, often by sharing illegal material of their own. McCool, known online by his alias, managed everything. He set the rules, moderated discussions, and ensured that only the worst of the worst were allowed in. For years, the Love Zone remained hidden, growing stronger as more people joined. Members felt safe, believing they were untouchable behind layers of encryption, but the law had already begun their hunt. Investigators from different countries worked together, slowly gathering clues and searching for the person behind the screen. McCool thought he was careful, but he made one mistake. A few key phrases he used in his online messages were traced back to him. Those were used to uncover his real identity and go in for the hunt. In 2014, police arrested McCool at his home in South Australia, and what they found was worse than they had imagined. Thousands of photos and videos, many created by McCool himself. Evidence showed he had abused young children in his care and shared the recordings with other predators. His arrest led to a global investigation. Authorities took down the Love Zone, identified many of its users, and worked to find the victims. In 2016, McCool was sentenced to 35 years in prison, ensuring he would never harm another child again. IsAnyoneUp.com. Hunter Moore was known as the most hated man on the internet.
Multiple photos.
It was an absolute shock.
Shit, I got posted on the site.
IsAnyoneUp.com. I felt violated.
Humiliation.
That site was about destroying lives. Who would create a website like this?
This is Hunter Moore from IsAnyoneUp.com. And all your girlfriends.
In 2010, he launched IsAnyoneUp.com, a website where users could submit explicit images of people, often their ex-partners, along with names, social media profiles, and other personal information. Most of the victims never gave consent for the photos to be shared. Some never even sent them to anyone. It turns out their accounts had been hacked. Moore embraced the reputation. He mocked his victims, calling them sluts and whores, and took pride in the destruction he caused. He had an army of online followers, known as the Family, who harassed anyone who tried to take the site down. When victims begged for their photos to be removed, Moore refused. Some even offered money, but Moore thrived on their suffering. Among those affected was Kayla Laws, a young woman whose topless photo appeared on the site, despite her never having shared it with anyone.
After my daughter.
He needed to be brought down.
If he feels threatened by somebody, he won't let it go.
Dude, without bullying, I don't know what.
Her mother, Charlotte Laws, refused to let it go. She started reaching out to other victims, gathering evidence that many of these images were stolen, not submitted by vengeful exes. In no time, she discovered that a hacker named Charles Gary Evans had been breaking into private email accounts and stealing intimate photos, which he then sold to Moore. Charlotte Laws took her findings to the FBI. Meanwhile, Moore continued to profit from humiliation, reveling in his reputation. But in 2012, Is Anyone Up abruptly went offline. James McGibney, an anti-bullying activist, had bought the domain and shut it down, replacing it with a support page for victims. Moore, still defiant, claimed he would return with something bigger. In 2014, the FBI finally took him down. Moore and Evans were arrested for conspiracy to commit hacking and identity theft. In 2015, Moore pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. After his release in 2017, he attempted to regain relevance, writing a book about his crimes and trying to build a new online presence. But the world had moved on. Meanwhile, Charlotte Laws had become an activist for online privacy and revenge porn victims. After all this, in 2022, Netflix released The Most Hated Man on the Internet, a documentary that chronicled Moore's rise and fall, exposing his crimes to a new audience.
Choosing to send them to somebody that we trust, like, that doesn't mean that we expect them to show up on the internet, and you're helping someone who's probably spiteful of a situation exploit someone without their permission. And there's nothing we can do to keep them down.